How's everybody doing tonight? Hope your Sunday's been good so far. Tonight is my ninth discussion. I'll be speaking with Pat Masterson, formerly of Force Fed Glass, Bastian, Daughters. Psyched to talk to him. Just waiting for him to pop on here, and I'm gonna try not to say a million times and also like. So, Pat, how you doing?
Good. How are you, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Can't complain. Back in lovely California from a month on the East Coast, and it's a little bit of a change.
I know. How was the East Coast? Did you miss it at all, or?
Yeah. We're kind of like on a 2-year plan to potentially move back there. So hopefully get back out there in a couple of years. But yeah, it was nice being back, be on the Cape and just be on the water again, working on boats and stuff. So it
Yeah,
was a
yeah. I
good
saw
time.
I saw some of the pictures. You did some fishing.
Yeah. My folks have a little marina right in Woods Hole, so we're just out in doing the end of the season boat work and hauling moorings and bringing in floats and stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
a
Nice.
nice change from sitting on my butt in LA.
Yeah, I know it's crazy quarantine out in California right now compared to
Yeah.
out here.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely a lot more relaxed out there for what we've been dealing with out here. But yeah, it's a nice change to be back. Luckily, it's like nice weather out. Can't complain. So
Yeah. Speaking of Cape Cod, Jamie from There Were Wires wanted me to mention if you remember the tattoo he gave you in Martha's Vineyard.
oh yeah, that was one. We used to go hang out in the vineyard at Lucas's house. And I forget which band Lucas was in too. I think he was in a band with Jamie. I don't think it was There Were Wires though. Um, but we used to go hang out there all the time, and we were in this phase of stick and poke tattoos. And then Jamie decided to do a heart around my nipple, and I was like, this will be fine. This is a great idea. It was horrible.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
He hit
like,
me up and wanted me to mention that one.
yeah, that's always a good story. Yeah, that was a very painful event.
I can imagine. Uh,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
I can
yeah,
I can
he's a good dude.
I can only see maybe half your face. Can you?
Oh shit.
There we go. Nice. Now I can see you.
Oh yeah, I wasn't sure. I saw a split screen. I don't know what's going on. This is my
Yeah,
first time doing one of these things, so
yeah. Well, I want to say thank you so much for doing this and taking the time out. I've been trying to do these every Sunday, and they've been
yeah,
working
it's
out.
awesome.
They've been working out so far, and I'm psyched to just talk to people from back in the day. And a lot of the people are still going strong with doing music now, which is a test to them. You know what I mean? Because um, I'm close to 50, and some of these guys are in their mid 40s, and they're still playing music, which I think is amazing. So again, I want to thank you so much for doing this, and we're just gonna talk about some of your old bands and what you got going on for Masterson Made and stuff like that for the next hour or so.
Cool.
First off, I wanted to just ask how. So, what came first? Was it Bastion or Force Fed Glass? Because like
Oh,
1998 and 97, was there a 97 Force Fed Glass demo, and then did the Bastion 7-inch come out in 98? I'm confused on what came first.
it was Bastian kind of started first. It was Evan and I, who was in Light Diffuse and Run and Force Fed Glass. Him and I grew up together on Cape Cod. We went to we met in like social studies class, at Falmouth High,
Yeah.
and we started just going to shows all the time. And then we started putting on shows, really getting involved with doing like up at like the Hyannis Fairground or like the green up there. They had a big stage. We'd put on like Earth Day shows, and then we got into doing. I don't know if you ever went to the Warp Tour that was over on Cape Cod at the Falmouth Fairgrounds.
Yes, yes,
You remember that? Yeah.
I
Evan
do.
and I used to go to town hall meetings for that to like be like, we want this to be here, because like we wanted to see like Sensefield was playing that year.
Yeah.
I think it was like Civ. I can't remember all the bands. It was like a pretty good lineup. I think Quick might have been one of the Quicksand might have played that one, but we were like super stoked on it, you know. And we were going to all the town hall meetings and stuff, and then we just going to the shows. And then Evan played guitar and stuff, and I never really learned guitar when I was a kid. Then basically he started Bastian with like Ben and some of the other guys. And I was just over there hanging out, and they're like, "Hey, you want to try singing?" I'm like, "Sweet, yeah, sure, this sounds fun," you know. And like threw my voice out the first night, couldn't freaking talk for like a week after.
Yeah.
But it kind of started there. Yeah, Bastian was the first band we all did together, and it was a lot of fun. You know, it was like we're in high school still. Just awkward, you know, like those awkward years of like, you know, this very shy at shows. Like I would always like turn my back to the stage, like the crowd, and didn't want to like
Yeah.
really engage with anybody. I was like, I don't want to. I'm like, I'm singing, but I don't want to talk to you guys.
What year was that? Was that 97 or
That probably
96?
would have been like nine. Yeah, because I graduated in '97, so yeah, it would have been like end of '97, '98, and it was pretty quick. Like we did like I think we were around for about a year and a half or so. And then we kind of went our separate ways. And then Force Fed Glass, then Ben and Evan started Force Fed Glass after that.
Yeah.
And
And
then I wasn't originally in Force Fed Glass. We had all somehow ended up in Richmond, Virginia, Ben, Evan, and I. And Evan, we actually ended up like, we weren't really talking as much as we were, and we ended up living like next to each other in Richmond.
really,
And we're like, oh, hey, what's up?
wow, that's crazy.
And I was on tour. I was just a roadie for them. I was going on tour roadieing for Force Fed Glass. Like, oh, it'll be fun. You guys got this tour. I think it was with like, it was like Kill the Man Who Questions and Page 99. So it was like a good lineup, you know.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing that, and then doing a lot of shows with like Reversal Man and Combat Wounded Veteran. And it was somewhere in like Indiana or something like that. Evan was like, I don't want to sing anymore. It was just Evan, and then Ben would do some singing. Evan was like, I don't want to sing anymore. He's like, you want to sing again? I'm like, sure. So like, it was ended up playing a house show at like the guy from Travis from Usurp Synapse, and like played at his basement show, and that was like the
Wow.
first time I sang with him.
Wow.
And it was a mess, you know. I'd like trying to learn these songs in like a night, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So what did they have out? Did they have anything out before you started singing for them, or like what?
They had that the first CD out, the first full length, like the When Backs Are Turned, Knives Are Pulled.
Yeah, yeah.
So that whole CD was out, and then after that tour, we got back and we recorded up at God City, and we did like the Swarm split. We did some things for a couple of compilations, and then just some extra songs. And some of the songs may not have even gotten released. Maybe on the discography they got released.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Were you on the split with Fall of Leningrad?
No, I wasn't. That was awesome. That one was recorded live by our buddy Nate. I think it was recorded live like on the Emerson. I think they played it live on a radio show for that one. They actually recorded that whole thing. Like that. It was like Emerson used to have that little. I don't know if you remember up in Boston at like the radio station at that window. You could like look in and like see the live shows going on. I think they played there for that recording.
Yeah, wasn't it WERS? Was that the name of the like?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Do you remember the Bastian show? I was talking to Jeff Howe a couple weeks ago, and that show that Bastian played with Reversal Man and Assoc and Jerome.
Oh yeah.
In Jerome's Dream up in Rochester, New Hampshire. Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember that one. That was a wild show. I remember I got chased after that show on the street by some kid that like kicked the window out of the Safe and Sound. There was like a
it was a wild show. I mean, I remember, I don't remember the window getting kicked out, but I remember a lot of chaos at the end of Assoc because I think I forget the guy's name that ran the show. I think it was Doug. He stopped Assoc probably 6 songs in because there was like scuffles and fights going on in the crowd, and he shut them down early. But I remember that was I was blown away by that show. Just the lineup alone was like Bastian, Frodis, Jerome's Dream, Reversal Man, Assoc. I was like I couldn't believe the lineup in Rochester, New Hampshire, of all places.
Yeah, it was during the Assoc. I like went outside halfway through the set because I was just hot after playing or whatever, and I was standing at our van, and they'd kicked somebody out. I think probably someone that was starting to fight in there or something like that. They kicked one of the kids out, and he turned around and just put his boot through the front door. and just like smashed the window, just like an idiot, you know. And I
Yeah.
yelled at him, and then he was pissed and just wanted to fight, and he started running at me, and I'm like probably a buck 20 wet back then. I'm like, oh shit! I'm just like running down the street away from him, like I'm not tangling with you, buddy.
Yeah. That's was that the only time you played up there, or did you play?
I think that's Safe and Sound. I don't think I really played too many other shows in New Hampshire.
Did you play New Hampshire with Force Fed Glass or?
We may have on tour. I don't think so. I don't. Yeah, I don't remember going up to New Hampshire for that. Any like too much.
Yeah. When did you actually meet Ben? To first off, I know you and Evan were high school buddies, but when did Ben get into the mix with all you guys?
Oh, he would have been actually. Just saw Evan just joined too, so he could probably pipe in on this. Evan, I think we all met from going to shows together because Evan was in a another band called Safety in Numbers, and we'd play. You know, he'd be playing local shows. So I always come. You know, he's my buddy. Come see him play and stuff like that. And then Ben had been in a band called Where's Ben, and I think that's where Evan and them all kind of met. You know, and started playing shows together. And they lived a couple towns over in Sandwich, so I think that's like when Bastian was forming they were practicing over there because Ben had like a nice big basement with his drum set and down there, so we
Yeah.
practice over there. Uh, I think that's pretty much how we all kind of met was through Evan playing in his bands and playing some like the local VFW hall shows we'd all go to and like the different. We had this one called it was called like the Marston's Mills Hall. We'd all go to. It was really good shows back then. It was like Dagobah and Chillmark,
Oh, no.
uh, Game and Shaft, like all like really good, you know, early Cape Cod kind of like punk and hard and screamy stuff coming out, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, who were you like influenced by in the before Bastion started? Like, what really got you started into this like punk hardcore scene?
Yeah, it was like kind of all over the place, like anything, you know, like finding myself, like I discovered like, you know, early stuff, of course, like, you know, Dead Kennedys, Black Flag, stuff like that when I was like just like up in my bedroom listening to music, you know, buying tapes from Newbury Comics and stuff.
Yeah,
It was really like we started going to shows at Babyhead, Evan and I, and it really got like into like Orange 9mm, Quicksand, Snapcase, like all like that early, you know, Victory Records
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
stuff. And then from there, you're like, oh, and then you start learning about these smaller bands in the area and going to local shows and just, you know, getting away from more of the mainstream stuff. But yeah, it definitely started off with like the definitely snap. I love like that Snapcase Steps album and the
yeah,
Orange 9mm Driver album. So
yeah. I was kind of like I was into metal at first, like heavy metal. My mom was a heavy metal fan, so she was like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and all that stuff,
oh, nice.
and that kind of progressed into I started listening to thrash metal, and that progressed into like New York hardcore stuff, you know, Youth of
Yeah,
Today,
yeah.
Judge, Agnostic Front, and then that kind of just stemmed towards the New England stuff like the Converge and Cave In and stuff like that. So I ran the gambit of heavy music for a while, but that's I see similar people. Some people were like metalheads when they were younger. Some were just like straight up punk, you know, like you said,
Yeah.
Black Flag and Circle Jerks and stuff like that. So it's interesting to, you know, we're always trying to compare like how we started listening to this music, you know?
Oh yeah. I was definitely like when I was like, you know, young too. It wasn't like cool kid. You know, I love like still like love like Grateful Dead and Led Zeppelin because of my dad. You know, like that's what we grew up listening to, all like that classic rock and like, you know, hippie stuff. And it was fucking awesome. You know, I still love that stuff.
Yeah, me
It
too.
wasn't until like later when you start getting a little angsty in high school when you want to like separate from that, you know. And, you know, just going and buy random records. I'd be like, oh, this sounds cool, and have no idea what it was, and just pick it
Yeah,
up. And, you know, hit or miss on some bands too, for sure.
yeah. I was a huge. You remember Very Distribution? That you'd get the
Oh yeah,
catalog.
yeah,
I get the catalog.
yep.
And I'd sift through that and I'd look for. I'm like, oh, this band sounds sick. Like I gotta buy that. And I was a crazy Very Distribution guy. Like when they first started.
Yeah, that was awesome. And like really I think my first like real like kind of like I guess the screamo punk like the screamo emo kind of stuff is our buddy Andy had he had discovered Reversal of Man from down in Florida and he came with it was like the demo or he'd gotten a bunch of like the 12-inch the holocron split 12 inches from Matt. I think shipped them up to him, and he gave them to Evan and I never heard anything like that. You know, it's like
Yeah.
we were doing Bastian was kind of similar vein, I guess, but a little different. And like it was awesome. And then I don't really know how that connection started. I don't know if we all started writing letters to each other or just I don't even think we had AOL when we first started or any of that kind of stuff. You know, I think one of us may have had an AOL account, but it was like some emails exchanged or
Yeah.
something. Started playing with them. I know Evan was really good at corresponding with people. He did like the zine that kind of helped him with called like 13th Hour for a little while. Oh yeah, Hydra Head. Oh yeah, Hydra. I've been saying Hydra Head was a big window for us when Hydra Head started putting out records and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, did Bastian only do that 7-inch, like recording wise, or just the 3 songs, or did you guys have
I
a demo tape?
We
Or?
had other songs. I want to say there was a demo tape, but I honestly don't have it, and I don't know if there was a demo tape or not. I want to say if there should be one because like that was the thing to do like a 4-song demo tape, you know,
Yeah.
on a 4-track, one of those like Tascam 4-tracks. I feel like everybody did that, and that was the thing to do. Um, but it might have just been there's the 3 songs, and there was another song that was recorded that was put on Casey, who did I forget the record label he did. He put out a compilation called Goats in the Gears,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it was
I know
there's a song on there's a song on that. I think I think we recorded with Kurt Ballou at God City, and I think that we only did like 4 or 5 songs.
and you
Oh,
don't have
Evan,
that,
yeah.
and you don't have that demo tape.
No, I don't. I mean, I was looking for it in the basement when I was at my folks' house the past month, and I was like going through stuff and trying to find it,
Yeah,
but I can't. I don't know where it is.
I know
It's
you can't.
probably pretty good, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean you can't. You actually can't find those 3 songs from the 7-inch anywhere either. It's like I had it, and then of course I sold all my records, and
Oh
trying to
yeah.
get that back, or even listening to that online is like impossible because I was searching forever just to hear it again. And
Oh yeah, yeah. I still have it. Actually, I'll record it and just hook the record player up to the computer and record it digitally. Hopefully, get a good pull off of that. But it should
yeah,
definitely record that and just throw it out somewhere. You know.
yeah, because like I said, I was searching. I've been searching for years and years trying to get that back. I see it on like someone will sell it, but it's like ridiculous amount of money, and which is which is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah. I think
now,
I still have the reel to reel somewhere, like the old 2-inch wide tapes. I have a few of those in the recordings, but I don't even know anyone that has a machine. So like, I think everyone's switched over to digital now. I don't even know if anyone's recording on tape to even pull those songs off of there. You know?
yeah, yeah. Now, who came up with the name Bastian? I know from the movie, but were you guys a big fan?
I think Evan came up with it. I think Evan was like, you know, we were both obsessed with that movie growing up, and even on the 7-inch, we have samples from it. You know,
Yeah.
I want to say Evan came up with the name for it, and I think we're all like, "Yep, that works."
Now, when you got into Force Fed Glass, how many years was that, and what year was that actually that you actually started singing for Force Fed Glass?
I want to say it was on the tour. I want to say it was like '99, maybe 2000. Like yeah, that sounds about right. '99, I think, because we were still living in Virginia. I was about 19 or so. Definitely wasn't old enough to drink yet. Yeah, I would say it was like probably '99.
Yeah.
It
What
was
made
like
you?
we
Oh,
basically
go
did
ahead.
that tour together. I like jumped on after I was like roadieing, and then you know we started singing in Indiana, and we came back and then recorded, and then we all kind of like I'd moved back up to Massachusetts, Ben had moved back up to Massachusetts, and Evan was still in Virginia, and we were trying to like figure out how to practice and do stuff, and that's kind of when it just kind of like Ben ended up going over to Converge right around that time, you know, which was a great opportunity for him, you know,
Yeah.
his drumming career, stuff like that. And we tried to keep the band going, actually, with the drummer from Joshua Fit for Battle. We had him. We were practicing in like Delaware, so we were meeting kind of
Yeah.
halfway,
Halfway.
practicing at his house and doing some stuff. But that never really took full form. You know, it was kind of hard when you start getting multi-state, especially when you're not funded or anything like that. You know, we were
Yeah.
still not a large band at that point or anything
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah. The traveling could be brutal, like that far away from each other. Now, what made you
yeah,
go? what made you move down to Richmond from Cape Cod?
Same thing. Just like, met a girl on tour. It was like talking online. I was young. I was like, oh, this girl's awesome. We were dating down. We were like, long distance dating, and just decided to get off Cape Cod and go to Richmond. It was like a different town. Something. First time I moved away from home. And then it was like it made sense back then. It was like a good idea.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And it was fun. Richmond was a fun place to live at that time. A lot of good shows. They had like the Exploder. They had like this bunch of good bands down there. 400 Years was out of there.
Yeah,
It was always like good scene. A lot of good house shows. Kind of a sleepy town overall, but it was definitely fun times.
yeah. 400 Years. That's a big like band that I missed. I never got to see them. I've seen a billion bands, but that's one that I'm sad to say I never saw. Which
I
I'm
want to
bummed
say I
about.
caught them at like one house show down there too. Yeah, it was like a house show we caught them at. It was like a kind of like a reunion thing for them. They were kind of like always off and on as a band. I think I could be making that up too, but I never saw them tour all that much.
Yeah, I know it's so crazy that it's been so long, and yet it doesn't seem that long. You know what I mean? Like 20 years doesn't seem, or 20 plus years doesn't seem so long. But then when you try to remember stuff about that, it's like a little fuzzy for me. Like
Oh yeah.
I totally forgot when I was talking to you, through Messenger that like I had seen Force Fed Glass, but I was like, oh, I only saw him once, and then I was like, oh, wait a second, I saw him twice, but I totally forgot. Um, the first time I saw him, you weren't in the band, I don't think, because
No. Yeah.
that was the Tin Can Fest in
Yep. Yep.
'98, I think. Which did you go to that show or?
Oh yeah. I was running around there. I think there's some other videos floating around from that Tin Can Fest, and I'm just there, bobble.
Oh, I lost. Oh, there you are.
Oh, yeah, a little lag there for a second.
Yeah. So go. I didn't hear you about the Tin Can Fest. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was there. Yeah, we had driven up. We had come up from Virginia. I think everyone was still down in Virginia for that. We'd come up to visit for that Tin Can. I think it was a Tin Can Fest,
And
and
that was the
when
one in
they
Worcester,
were
right?
playing.
Was that the one in
Yeah,
Worcester?
yeah. I think it was like a big hall kind of thing or something like that we were in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was I think it was at the Space in Worcester. Remember that place?
Oh yeah, that we used to go to that. That place was awesome, man. So many good shows out there.
Pete from Sinaloa used to put on some crazy fest. I take my hat off to him. All the Tin Can Fest were incredible, um, and that was the first time I saw Seisha and like Portrait and
Oh yeah, yeah.
like that was kind of game changing for me because like I said, I was kind of a metalcore kid. I was like into moshing a little bit back in the day, being a meathead, and then I went to that show and it kind of changed my way of like musical taste at least, and just opened my eyes to something that was so cool that night, and then that just progressed onto the same kind of music. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. Portrait was great. We actually drove down from Massachusetts to. They were out of Atlanta and they were playing their last show. Some of our friends and I, we just drove all the way down there overnight from Massachusetts to Atlanta to go to the show, and then drove back the next day. It was like back then you used to like back when you're kids. Like now the idea of doing that, I'm like, oh hell no, I'm not driving that far. But
Yeah,
it was awesome.
I'm the same way. I mean, I lived in Massachusetts, but I was up in Haverhill, so I was like right on the border. And then I've lived in New Hampshire pretty much most of my life, and it was when I was in my 20s. I would always drive down to like Waterbury, Connecticut. I would go to Providence, Rhode Island. I would go to Boston all the time. And now it's like, all right, I'll drive to Boston, but I'm not going to Waterbury anymore because it was old now, and I could easily get 3 hours of sleep and go to work the next day when I was in my 20s, but I could never do that now.
Oh yeah, no way. Yeah, Waterbury. They used to do like that. Brass City Records. They used to do some good shows there. Went to definitely. We played one show there with like Drum Dream and Appleseed Cast, Lynchpin, and that was a good show. I remember going to some good shows at that venue.
Now, do you have fond memories of like all the shows that you played, or is things kind of fuzzy like here and there, or do you remember a lot of the the shows that, especially like Bastian and Force Fed Glass, just because it was like the most dated stuff that you played in.
Yeah, I remember for the most part. I don't remember necessarily like every set, or song that we did or anything like that. Um, but I definitely remember like a lot of locations, just talking with people. It was always like back then. I feel like too half the thing was like the music, and a lot of it was just like going to these big gatherings and like being around like-minded people.
Yeah.
Getting to like hang out with kids you don't necessarily see in your small town, and having like a big group of people. And I think that's more of my memories that were just like the people I met, the connections I made, whether we keep them still to this day or not, still like very think fondly upon those times.
Yeah, definitely. Now, is there any recordings, live recordings of Bastian and Force Fed Glass with you singing in them? Because that's another thing that I can't find. It's like I was looking, and unfortunately, I didn't have my camera on the reversal show that Bastian played up in Rochester,
Yeah. I
and
think there's a couple of videos from there was a fest like the Lawrence Fest. It was like when the Locust we played the year. It was like the Locust and oh god, it was like that 3-day fest up in Lawrence, Massachusetts at one of those like big VFW kind of venues. I know some recordings from that, and which I'm glad they exist. And I also watched them. I'm like, oh god, I wish they didn't exist sometimes.
now now now
Um,
now was that for Bastian or Force Fed Glass?
that's for Bastion. Yeah, that was like early on Bastion stuff. That's right around the time of the Frodis show. I think it was like Lawrence Fest was like on that same tour when Frodis and Reversal Man and Ass Suck were all up in the New England
Oh yeah,
area.
wasn't that the next night? I'm pretty sure that was the next night, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And there's videos of that. Is it on YouTube? Because
I think they are on YouTube. I think they're kind of buried in deep. I think I've found them before, but then gone to look for them before and haven't found them. So if I dig them up, I'll send a link to you over.
yeah,
But
definitely.
they're okay. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
But the
I would
Force
love
Fed
to see
Glass stuff,
this.
there's just not a lot of videos that I know of. Actually, until you started posting videos, there was not even any videos I knew of like when I was in Daughters. When we first started the band, there wasn't a lot of video footage of that first tour that we did.
Yeah, I was a maniac when you guys first started. I think I have a good three different sets with you in it from
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
from that year. I think it was like 2002 if I'm not.
Sounds about right. Yeah, right around then. That's kind of about the first year of the band we had started it.
And you're speaking of Daughters, how did you get with Lex and Nick and John and those guys? How did that happen?
I'd moved back up east and I was started working. I worked for Newbury Comics for years, and so I like worked at the Cape store, and then I started working back at the Cape store, and then they were opening up that North Attleboro store, and so then I took a key holder or assistant manager position there and moved from the Cape to Providence. So the same thing, just like get off the Cape, and
Yeah,
take a job. And then my buddy Jeremy, who was in Daughters, the first guitar player in Daughters, he was from the Cape too. So he was friends. He had met Lex and all them when he was going to RISD when they were all playing in As the Sunsets. And then he started playing in As the Sunsets. I think one of the guitar players had left or something, and he started learning guitar and playing. And we just kind of met from them coming into Newbury Comics, talking, shooting the shit, and then hanging out. And then there was a tour kind of lined up for As the Sunsets with who was that first tour with? They'll come to me in a minute. It was kind of like a tour was already kind of lined up, and then the band kind of fell apart for As the Sunsets. So then we kind of formed Daughters quickly to jump onto that tour.
yeah. And you
And I never played bass in my life.
I was just
And
gonna
like
ask you that.
never like I took like guitar lessons when I was like 6 or 7 years old, but I didn't play an instrument. And they're like, well, we need a bass player. And we got this 5-string bass. And I was like, 5-string bass? I'm like, we're really going for it. And so John and I would just sit in my bedroom at night. And then Jeremy would come over and they just taught me how to play bass, like basically how to play the songs, and then I'd start getting comfortable adding to them. But a lot of it was just basically learning how to be an asshole and run around on stage and, slap the thing. And it was the first set. I think we had 11 songs, and the whole set was like 9 minutes for the first tour,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's with like noise tracks in between, and we had never. played a big stage or anything like that. So it was definitely a fun tour, but very awkward in learning, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, are you on the recording of that 4-song EP from
Yeah,
2002?
yeah, yeah. We recorded that with Machines with Magnets. Keith Souza, who had done a lot of the stuff, used to be I think it was Samson Records or Samson Recording before. And he started Machines with Magnets, and he just kind of was our go-to guy for recording. Because just a great guy, great studio. The studio's grown and grown over the years.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like everybody from New England has done that, gone there, or either God City. It's like
Yeah,
either one or the other, or they record with Will up in Amherst from
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Orchid. Those are the three main like go tos, definitely. So how did things end with Daughters with you? How come you kind of stepped away from Daughters?
We moved out to California. It was just kind of ready for a change again. You know, it was like 22, 23, and just came out to California. Really liked it, wanted to stay. You know, and just ended up staying essentially. I think I flew back for a few shows, and then same thing. Like the idea of like being bi-coastal and playing in a band of that size, the caliber we were at that time, just wasn't feasible.
Yeah,
So that's when they went through a few different other bass players before Sam finally joined. Full time. Um, it was really for like it was. I definitely like my musical talent probably would have eventually petered out in the bass playing department there anyway.
yeah,
So it was for the better, but it just worked out fine. And whenever they would come out here on tour too, it was fun. Just jump on tour with them again, and
yeah.
go hang out. Yeah, we're always like good buddies.
Yeah, I mean, I love that 2002 EP CD. It's
Oh yeah.
well, that was the thing for me because um, I was a big As the Sunsets fan, and then when Daughters came out, I was like full-fledged hooked on that first EP. That's why, like I said, I tried to go see you guys as much as I could in New England when you guys played, and I was lucky enough to get a few recordings of it. Which I mean, they're not, like I said, an old Sony camcorder doesn't give you the greatest recordings, but at least it's something to show for it. Nick just came in right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, like those old recordings are great. Yeah, it's just fun to see. Even like doesn't matter. Like you don't even need the sound quality. It's just funny to like watch. Just to watch people thrash around and have fun, and it's a great good times.
Yeah, definitely. Now, when you went out to California, did you try to start another band when or were you in another band out in California?
No, nothing too much. I kind of looked around a little bit, but I was kind of coming out here to work and then just kind of like find my feet, like as awkward, early 20s, figuring out what I wanted to do, and played some music with some friends, but nothing seriously. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and was it kind of just the thing you wanted to change to go out to California? Did you go out by yourself, or was it another girl that you had met?
Yeah, I met like a couple girls out here actually, but then I was dating one girl and she was like going to school out here, and then we actually had split before I actually moved back out there. And it was kind of just I got like a job out here, and it was like an opportunity, and I was like, same thing, just get off the Cape, and when you come from Cape and you go to LA, it's the big lights and just such a different life. It was like I'm going out there no matter what kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, obviously you liked it because you're still out there now. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, it's almost 20 years later, almost going on 18, 19 years, and it's fun. It was definitely a fun place to live, but I think eventually move back. Eventually, because it's just I don't know. Once you live in New England and from New England, it's kind of I don't know. I miss it sometimes, especially being back home. And I don't know if September is really the best time to go back because it's like the best month out there.
yeah, yeah,
So you get like that, like you fall in love with it again in September and early October.
yeah. Now, would you move like closer to your parents, like near the Cape, or would you go Rhode Island, New Hampshire, like where you like?
Probably either like Rhode Island or the Cape. Really just depending where I could find a place. And basically, I just want to move my wood shop out there and just keep doing the woodworking, and then really getting into, potentially like boat making is kind of like on the horizon of like doing wooden boats and stuff like that. And I just want to have a big shop where I can just work and make stuff.
Yeah.
We went to, my stepdad took me to a few different boat makers while I was out there, and I was like, this looks awesome,
Yeah.
just building boats.
Yeah, definitely. That would be awesome. How did you get working with wood and getting your company started? How was that a passion before, like you, or was it something that you just kind of fell into? And
Yeah, more so the woodworking fell into. I was always like into like the arts growing up, and photography growing up as a kid. Like our high school had a really good program. Um, and then the woodworking kind of just came out of a little bit of necessity for work when I was doing like started like doing like window designs for a couple different like clothing companies, and then just learning basic carpentry skills, and then it just kind of started teaching myself more and more and more, and then it kind of just barrel rolled from there and started making stuff. And then I really like to cook and work in the kitchen, so I focused mostly on kitchen utensils and kitchen items. And it's also nice because it's like they're smaller, so in my shop I don't have like huge pieces of furniture lurking around.
yeah, yeah. Which will be totally different if you're making boats, though, because you're.
Oh yeah, I need a big old place for that, which would be nice. Yeah, yeah. The woodworking just kind of came out of interest and passion just for always making. It's kind of the same thing. I always feel like music, cooking, woodworking, art. It's all kind of like similar in the sense you're taking a bunch of different ingredients essentially and putting them all together to make one whole thing.
Yeah.
Whether doesn't matter what it is.
I know the stuff that you have, the kitchen boards and the
Oh
magnetic
yeah, yeah.
knife racks, that they're really nice. And I mean, anybody that's watching this, you should check out his company, because he's got some dope stuff on there for
Ah,
sure.
thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's like definitely going through all this too. It's been a nice downturn to like really focus on that again. And 'cause I still work like a regular 9 to 5 for like a marketing company, doing design for like Comic Cons and South by Southwest, and like doing like a lot of like pop up experiential events.
Yeah.
That's kind of like my like 9 to 5. But the great part about this is it's actually being made to be at home and just be in the shop all day long.
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
feel lucky too to have that outlet.
Yeah, it's almost like a good, cool hobby, but
Yeah,
it's a money making
yeah,
hobby for sure.
yeah, exactly.
Now, are you still listening to heavy music now, or is it kind of like your musical taste changed a little bit?
I've been actually since I've been like back home. I've like been really digging through all my records, and then because I never sold anything, so I got a pretty extensive collection of all the old music from early 2000s and 90s and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
been kind of diving back into a lot of that stuff, and listened to like a lot of shellac lately and Helmet again. Really, getting into that. Uh, yeah, so I don't keep up on so much the current bands as much as I should. A little harder. I think once you stop playing in bands, stop going to shows all the time, I feel it's harder to kind of keep up with like the relevant like that scene.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, definitely been diving back to the old catalog of records though. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I know. I'm kicking myself in the ass for not saving the stuff that I had, because I had everything, and now I have one 7-inch, an Anton Boardman 7-inch, and that's all I
Oh
have.
yeah, yeah.
That's all I have. I have a few CDs, but like vinyl, I have one vinyl.
Oh
That's
yeah.
it. Which is
Yeah, I just dug out. I forgot. One of my favorite bands from back then too was Corinne. I love Corinne and Barrett. Like those were like two of my favorite bands. I just dug out those 7 inches the other day, and I was like, oh, this is so good. Like Stark Weather, like that Stark Weather Season of Risk Split. It's just like Thrasher,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Barrett, I love Barrett back in the day.
Yeah.
Which it was great to see them too. I was saying maybe the last discussion, I saw Barrett before that 7-inch had even come out in Atkinson, New Hampshire, at this little community center, and I was like, "What the? Who the hell is this?" I was like, "I can't believe this band." I was blown away, and then I saw him later. But when I first saw him, I was like, "Who the hell is this band?" I love Barrett. It's great to hear like old band. I forget about band names like Corinne and stuff like that, just because I love talking to people, because they bring up band names, and I totally forget a lot of the things that I used to listen to, or even the bands that I've seen. So it's good to hear, do a little memory from back in the day, a little nostalgia.
Oh yeah. And one thing I too, whenever I used to like when I worked at Newbury Comics and like I would like buy 7 inches, I always had I left the receipt in like every sleeve. So it's like you flip through and you pull it on. And I also like have like the receipt if I bought it there, like
That's
the day I bought it on, and like it's like $1.99, like Hyannis Newbury Comics, like
that's, that's
1997.
that's crazy. I had to when Newbury Comics wasn't that close to me. I had to drive to Harvard. Was it Harvard Square? I think there was one in
Oh yeah,
Harvard
yeah.
Square in Cambridge. It was either that or Newbury Street. Those were the only Newbury Comics around here when I was young in my early teenage years, and what a pain in the ass that was. But I would make my mom drive all the way down there. She's like, "Are you kidding me? Drive down to Cambridge to get records?" Like, and I'm like, "Listen,
Yep.
they're the only place that sells these records." So yeah, I used to make the trek all the time when I was younger. And it's funny that you were saying about handwritten letters to people, being in touch band wise back then, because I remember setting up shows before the internet was really a thing. And I was saying, I was writing letters to bands from Maryland being like, hey, do you want to play a show up in Haverhill, Massachusetts? And it was such a crazy time back then. And a lot of people don't realize the struggle it was to actually set up a show or even just get in touch with bands that you like that you wanted to see come up here or stuff
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
this. It's such a wild time. And another thing is when we were in that scene back then, the lineups were stacked. Just the flyers alone that you had sent me and all the other flyers that are around, it was a stacked lineup it was sometimes 2 times a week, every weekend, whether it be Providence, Cape Cod, Boston, Manchester, New Hampshire, just a crazy amount of shows back in the day.
Oh
And
yeah. It was also great. I used to love going too because like you would just go to a show to go to a show. If you knew one band on the lineup, you'd still go just to like that's how you found new bands back then. There was like yeah, like it was pre-internet. Like you weren't like listening to bands before you got to the show, and I think that's also what made it for. I think I must be. I'm only imagining it's harder for young kids now to go tour the country, without sending demos out to every venue and just like jumping on a show. 'Cause, like that's the thing we were also lucky enough to be able to just like put a tour together, have enough gas money, hopefully, to get to the next venue, get your Thomas guide out, and just drive blindly.
yeah, sometimes people would just show up and just be like, hey, can we play a set?
100%. Yep.
And people would be like, yeah, go ahead, like you can use our equipment. If you don't have all your equipment with you, just play. I set up a few shows and a few bands had just come out just randomly and asked to play, and I was like, sure. I was like, the hell, go ahead.
We were just talking about my buddy Mark was just over the house before we got on here, and we were just catching up and shooting the shit. And he was in an Albatross, and we played a show together. Like it was like one of their record releases. I think it was in Philly or something like that. And I played through his cab, like shared equipment with them, so I didn't have to like bring out our whole setup. And then we ended up meeting out here years later, and we were just talking about bands, and I'm like, wait, we played a show together when we were like 19 or something like that, or 20 or whatever it was. And we're like, oh, we became best friends since then. But yeah, he was just over the house, and we were just shooting the shit off and about old tour stuff, and he was like, I think he might have jumped on for a little bit too here, but yeah, he's a hot shit.
Yeah, it's great. It's crazy that the randomness of like what happens with you, especially Evan too. You would like live right next to him, and
Oh yeah,
like
yeah. Evan and I, we
you
did.
know,
We moved to Richmond separately, and we literally. I was on the second floor, and there was an alleyway, and he was on the first floor. So we could just like it was like so random, And we're just like, oh hey, what's up, buddy?
that's crazy. Now, do you talk to all the guys from do you talk to Ben? Do you talk to Lex? Do you talk to all the guys from the bands that you played in still, or?
Yeah, pretty much like some of us like don't keep in contact as much as the others. But like Evan and I still talk a lot. Like all the dudes from Daughters and I, we still talk, fairly regularly. Um, harder as as you grow up, it's just harder to keep in contact. But whenever they're in town, I go see them. We all go hang out. Text and call throughout the year as much as we can. Yeah, it's we try to keep in touch as much as we can. It's harder when you get older, the busy
Yeah,
life and stuff like that for
yeah,
sure.
definitely. Did you go see the Last Daughters tour that came to California when you were out there?
Yeah, yeah, it was awesome. It's just also fun seeing them like grow as a band and the sound, how it's changed so much, And just like everything watching those guys. It's like so proud of them, you know. I'm like, it's like, you know, they're my buddies. I'm just like, it's so proud, you know. It's almost teary eyed. I'm like, oh, I love you guys, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I love the new album too. It was funny because I had said before when Lex was screaming, and then all of a sudden the vocals kind of changed. I was bummed out at first, and then I thought about it, and I was like, you can't scream forever. If you're going to be a band that lasts more
Yeah,
than 5-10 years, you can't just keep screaming because it's always going to sound the same. So then I started listening to it over and over again, and then it hooked me, and the new album blew me away. Like, it's so good, and I'm happy for those guys too.
oh yeah,
I met Lex when he was real young. When I think him and John were in Cast Off Skin, those guys
oh yeah.
I saw those guys play, I think, with Ukla the Mock in Providence, and that was the first time I had met Lex, and he was young. Those guys were real young. I'm
Oh yeah.
maybe I don't know how old Lex is. I think is he early 40s maybe or but
I want to say they're. I want to say they're. I want to say he's a couple years younger than me. I'm 41 now. I would say like yeah, like late 30s, breaking 40 soon. I would imagine.
yeah.
Uh, but I can't confirm. Yeah, I think right around that. Yeah, definitely like late 30s. Nick's definitely like the young. The young. We used to tease Nick about being the young guy in the band.
Nick's a great guy too. I had talked to Nick just a little while ago. I don't know if you caught that, but
Yeah, I
I,
caught some of it. Yeah.
I love Nick, and he gave me a great movie recommendation that blew me away too. So I try to talk to Nick about movies as much as possible because I know he's a big movie buff, and I am too. That's my problem. I'm too much information. I try to pack all this information in, and sometimes it's too much. But yeah, the salute to Nick and his movie recommendation. He told me to watch Possessor. I don't know if you've ever heard of that movie, but
No, no, I don't keep up on movies too much. I'm like that's the one thing I always feel lost in conversations and film and stuff like that. It's like not that I don't like it, it's just I find it hard to find time or find myself to like sit down and watch a movie. I fidget too much. I think I'm always like I gotta go out the shop and go do something or go work in the yard.
yeah, that happens to a lot of. I mean, my brother-in-law is like that too. I always talk about movies, and then he's like, I just can't sit still for, 2 hours to watch something. But I don't know. That's. I mean, hip hop is a big love of mine too. I don't know if you listen to hip hop, but I while and for like maybe an 8-year span, all I went to was hip hop shows and tried to record hip hop shows just for something different. I always still listen to heavy
Yeah, yeah.
music, but recording wise, I tried to just like record hip hop stuff just to mix it up.
Yeah, I do that when you post that stuff sometimes. It's cool to see something different, like because that's not something I always seek out, but I always enjoy it when I watch it, you know. And so it's always cool to see something different pop up too, for sure.
We got about 12 minutes left, so every discussion I do, I usually do a little rapid fire at the end. So I'm going to hit you off with a couple questions right now. Favorite New England hardcore punk band of all time for you?
Cave-In New England. I would probably have to say early Cave-In. That was like I loved early Cave-In.
Yeah, I'm hooked on Beyond Hypothermia. Like somebody was
Yeah,
saying they didn't like Cave In, and I was like, you're crazy. Like the
yeah.
first,
When Jay was it Jay Frechette or whatever the singer was, when Jay was, and then Andy Kite was still playing bass or guitar for them, like that. Those first years, like they were just thrashing. That was awesome.
yeah, the first two albums are you can't
Yeah.
beat those first two albums. All right, my second question is, who influenced you to play in a band?
Actually, George Michael. Um, when I was a kid, I got my guitar for the first time, and then when that Faith video would come on, when he's shaking his butt with a guitar, I would like sit there with my guitar and like wait for it to come on MTV, and I would just sit there and just like wait. And it's like I learned it was like one of the songs I learned how to play on guitar in the guitar class, you know. And I really loved like him and Prince were like just big, you know, just loved the way like they would move and the showboat, you know, kind of thing like that. That's why I want to kind of play music.
Yeah, that's awesome. Careless Whisper is on my playlist in my
Oh
car
yeah,
right
yeah,
now. So you know, I love Prince and George Michael as well. My third
yeah.
question is, what was the first punk hardcore show you attended?
That would have been Orange 9 millimeter. I actually just dug out my Orange 9 millimeter shirt. when I was at my folks' house the other day.
Mm.
It was at Club Baby Head, and it was Orange 9mm, and I think it was a couple other local bands I'd never heard of from Connecticut. Like they were like the frontline kind of bands. That would have been my first punk show. Besides, like there's some like local like Marston Mills and like VFW Hall, but like the first I got a club, yeah, it was Orange 9.
Yeah, Babyhead was great. I loved
Oh
Babyhead
man,
back
it
in
was
the day.
such a weird club back then too. There's always the weird stuff they have on the TVs and just like
Yeah, I loved it though because I was always going to Boston. I always went to the Rat and the Channel, so it was
yeah.
nice to go to Babyhead every once in a while. I saw some crazy bands like I said before. I saw DRI Four of a Kind tour there. I saw Excel. I don't know if you've ever heard of Excel from California, but they played there. It's kind of like an old hardcore.
Okay.
Um, just some great shows there, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's like Shelter and 108 play there, and
Wow.
Earth Crisis. Like it was
Yeah,
like all like that whole lineup.
yeah. Babyhead was great. My next question is all-time favorite hardcore punk show you played personally in one of your bands. What was the all-time show that was like the most meaningful for you?
That's a fun one. I would say probably one of the first Daughters shows, just because it was like a fun, exciting time for music for me, and then playing with all those guys. Um, that was a really thing. That's a hard one though. Or even like one of the first Bastian shows, just because it was so intimidating to like start putting yourself, your teens, and you're like putting yourself out there for the first time in front of your peers. Um, actually, probably the funnest show probably was that Brodus show up in Rochester. That was probably like one of the best shows we played.
Yeah, that show was amazing. I wish somebody had a videotape of that. I'm always searching for
Yeah.
stuff like that, but that would have been amazing. All right, my next question is all-time favorite punk hardcore show you attended and didn't play that you kind of just witnessed and were blown away by whatever you saw.
It would have been that probably would have been Vision Disorder at the Rat, and they were playing with like 454 Big Block, and I think it was another like kind of like a Madball type of band, a little bit more of that like NYC. It wasn't Madball, but it was like definitely a harder lineup, And then Vision Disorder was headlining, and
Yeah.
I just remember Evan and I actually were like kind of tucked up on the backstage when 454 Big Block was on, and we were just like we're holding our spots for when VOD gets up here, And that was like I loved VOD back then. They just put on a great show. I felt like their singer was pretty, entertaining for the most part.
Yeah, me too. I love VOD too. Did Blood for Blood play that show? Usually they
Yeah,
were.
I think Blood for Blood, I think was on that bill too. Yeah, yeah.
That's that sounds like a good one. I never saw VOD. They were supposed to play with Earth Crisis up in Manchester, but they bailed on that show. But it's funny because Blood for Blood played that show with Earth Crisis up in Manchester, which I guess they always played together. It's weird, but I'm bummed out that
That makes sense.
I never got to see VOD, unfortunately. All right, my next question, which is kind of what was the last movie you watched?
What was that?
What was the last movie you watched?
Oh, last movie. I've watched a movie. I was watching that Ratchet on Netflix. I guess not really a movie. And then some documentaries, a bunch of like good architecture documentaries on the Cape. There's one called like Built on Narrow Land, which I just watched again last night because I was back on the Cape, and it's just all about like early mid-century architecture on Cape Cod. Um, but yeah, I started watching that Ratchet on Netflix, and I kind of been enjoying that well enough.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. I heard good things about it. I just haven't had the time to watch it. I just had finished The Boys season 2. I don't know if you heard of
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
we finished that one. Yeah, it was good.
yeah, I love The Boys. And then I've been watching Lovecraft Country on HBO, which
I heard about that. I haven't watched it yet, though. I gotta check that out.
yeah, at first I did it. I wasn't a huge fan of it. The first couple episodes, I was like, I don't know if I like this, and then as has it like it's progressed, I've liked it a little more. So I'm still kind of on the fence. I think it's good, but I don't know if I love it.
Yeah, is it like based on all like H.P. Lovecraft books kind of thing,
Yeah,
or yeah.
it's like all over the place. It has like like bits and pieces of a bunch of stuff. That's why I don't know exactly what it is yet. It hasn't like
Yeah, yeah,
evolved
yeah.
into so, but I don't know if you're into comics, but DC or Marvel.
Oh, I definitely would have been a yeah, DC Comics for sure.
Yeah, me too. I'm a DC guy all the way. And also, my last question is, if you've been listening to any hip hop, what have you been listening to?
Nothing hip hop for me lately. Yeah, I'm kind of out of touch. It's something I actually want to like been meaning to like dive back into lately, just to kind of keep on new music and stuff like that. So I unfortunately do not have a good answer for that one.
Back when you did listen to it, what were you listening to though? Like, was it mostly '90s stuff? Like, you know,
Yeah, I love that like '90s. I love like all like the Bell Biv DeVoe kind of R&B stuff. That was like really big. And then like not so much hip hop, but then like like all like the NKOTB and stuff like that. I just love that stuff when I was a kid.
did you ever see those guys on when they played live?
I did at Rocky Point amusement park in Rhode Island. They played. I saw the new kids play there at like it was like some like family fun day kind of thing we went to.
Or was this like later on?
What was that?
Oh, did you see him in their heyday, or was that like like later
Oh no,
on?
this is like yeah, this is like heyday when I was like I was probably 9, 10 years old or something like that.
Were you rocking the shirt too?
Oh yeah, I had the posters up in the bedroom. Oh, I had every. Oh yeah, I was like a fanboy.
Now, are you ready? Now, when you move back to New England, are you ready for the New England winters or what? Because I hate the New England winters.
Yeah, the ultimate plan, is like be in New England most of the good years, and then be in like New Mexico or something like that during the winters eventually. But I think that's kind of everybody's dream, is to be able to split time. So if that actually becomes a reality, But I like the cold weather. I'm always like, I like, I get hot easy, so I'm always like, I like being cold. So I don't mind it. I don't think I mind it all that much.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
just
say
like,
that now, though. I say it now.
yeah. I mean, almost 50 years of New England winters for me is ugh. I'm trying to get my wife to move somewhere warm, but it's not working. My kids are rooted into their friends here and stuff like that. Maybe
Oh yeah.
I mean maybe when I retire or something like that, it could happen. But it's yeah. I keep trying though.
Yeah, or once the kids get old enough and they're on their own, you can move down somewhere.
I'm like Florida, even though it's like super humid down there, and but I like the west coast of Florida, where the Gulf of
Oh
Mexico
yeah, yeah,
is. The Gulf of Mexico, I love that water, and I'm trying, but it's not working. So
yeah. I spent some time in Destin with one of my friends down there on the Panhandle. I never been there, and Destin, Florida, was just like it was beautiful. Big white sand beaches, warm water.
yeah,
Fishing every day. It was awesome.
yeah, Destin is amazing. I stayed near there. It was like in Venice, Venice, Florida, which is real close. I think it's only maybe I'm not sure, maybe 25 minutes away from Destin, but
Oh, nice.
that water and beach, those
Yeah,
beaches
you
are
can't beat that.
unbelievable. It's crazy. Are you close
I
to
remember going down there for on tour. It was like Force Fed Glass or daughter's tour. We were down there in like Clearwater, and I'd never really been out there before. We went out after the show. We played like Clearwater Skate Park or something like that.
Yeah.
I went out after, and it was just blown away by it down there.
Are you close to the ocean in California, or are you kind of inland?
I'm inland. I'm like right above downtown LA, in this place, Highland Park, this little neighborhood. It's kind of a good location. It's like the beach is only about 16, 20 miles away, but
Oh, it's not too bad.
by ways of LA traffic, that's you might as well fly across country.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, we got a minute left, and I just want to thank you again for taking the time out to do this. I really appreciate it. I was psyched to talk to you. I know we talk here and there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I love the love that you show on my page and liking stuff and stuff like that. And I just want to say thank you so much. And I wish I could have recorded more stuff of you guys back in the day, but I hope.
No, it's great. Yeah, this has been fun, and it's like I love that you're doing this with people, and like reconnecting. And I'm sure there's a lot of us like with Jamie on the other day and stuff. It's so good seeing like what those guys are up to, and seeing their faces again.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because Jamie got on and I was like, "Whoa, he's as gray as I am." I couldn't believe
Yeah.
it. Which I feel better about
Oh yeah.
We got about 10 seconds. I want to say have a great night, and thank you so much, Pat, for doing this. And I'll talk to you soon.
Cool, man. Thanks
All
for
right,
having me
man.
on.
Thanks,
All
brother.
right. Talk to you
Later.
later.